Well, well, well. Would you look at that? Juice Pro Wrestling has merch. Support the show by going to prowrestlingtees.com/JPWtees and get yourself a shirt. Enjoy the show.
You so freaking bad. Wrestle me.
Welcome, everybody, to a special edition of Juice Pro Wrestling Podcast with the fucking machine, Brian Cage. Brian, thank you for joining us tonight, brother. We got some that we're going to go a little out of the box. Everybody that just watched the Dark Side of the Ring episode about the one, the only legendary Chris Kanyon, a friend of yours, personal friend and trainer. Everybody's fresh off of that. They want some more on this story, on the man, the myth, the legend himself. And so we're stepping outside the box. And I thank you right now. And everybody watching and listening right now, thanks you for joining us to discuss the life and times of Chris Kanyon.
Quite the introduction there. It got a little death metal on me. I couldn't take you serious for a second. That was great.
Oh, you got to take the metal serious, my brother.
The episode was phenomenal. I was stoked to be part of it. It came together real nice. I mean, obviously, a lot of stuff was left on the chopping room floor. I know for myself, I think I talked to him for over 2 hours or so. So, I mean, if you throw in everybody, if we all talk for at least 2 hours, and that's plenty of content that we couldn't all put in there. But I felt like it definitely painted him a really good light, which is great because I like all these Dark Side of the Rings. I think they're really well done, but unfortunately, a lot of them have more of a negative spin on things than a positive. And no pun intended with positive Kanyon, but I felt like Kanyon's, even though it has a tragic end, I felt like it definitely had more of a feel good positivity throughout the episode as opposed to negative.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's a tragic tale because, I mean, you go back to an era in just society in general where I guess people were aware that people were depressed and, and back in the 90s and stuff, being a closet gay person, like back then it was hard, man. It's not acceptable. And people may hear those words nowadays, but they don't really get how hard that is for that person, and like how deep a depression can be. So like, that's just the worst part about it. Other than that, I mean, dude, wrestling is tragedy more often than not, but I just
true. And being already, manic and bipolar as it is, and then having to keep that big secret and then being around the world of wrestling as it is, like there's so many combustible elements, combined together that, and even obviously, it wasn't as open and accepted, to be gay then, but too, mental health wasn't as really looked at or talked about. Like, I remember in the episode too, I talked about how when he came out to me, looking at him as an idol hero. That kind of like bummed me out at first for a split second.
Right.
And I realized, like, wait, why does that even matter? It's not what. Not even knowing him, already was freaking enthralled with him because of how great he was in the ring. So that has nothing to do with his personal life. But then now knowing him and being just good friends with him, like, why is it, nothing changes? Like, what?
Yeah, he's not making you uncomfortable, totally.
Like, whatever he does in the bedroom by himself, I've never thought about anyway. So I'm like, why is it nothing changing?
Right.
But in the same aspect, I couldn't, even when I started, become better friends with him, I couldn't understand the depression issue too. Because, in my head, I'm thinking like, how are you depressed, bro? You have a really nice place, you have money, you're on TV, you did this, you did that, you did this. So it's hard to you can't make sense of it. Obviously, I was young then, just like even Matt Jackson was talking about. And it's kind of hard to deal with because you don't know how to deal with it or express or help the situation, and it doesn't make sense to you. But obviously that came a long way too. On top of being obviously it's way more openly accepted to be gay, trans, bi, whatever the case may be. So
yeah, man. What was so you were actually trained by him, right? Did he have an actual school going, or was he just
no? So he So I came about too. So okay, so when we first met, I told the story many times, so I'll give it like the quick version. When we first met, it was at Raw on Austin Appreciation Night. He came out with the Who Betta the Can shirt. Anybody remembers this? I had that shirt. He came back out after the show and gave me the shirt. So I had a Who Betta the Canyon sign, which I still have as well, laminated in my garage that's signed by him. So going back to so Austin Appreciation Night, Canyon's out there. I had the Who Betta Who Betta the Canyon sign. That was the main thing I wanted to do because I had been doing several WWE shows. I'd never been to a WWE show, though I was a big fan of both and watched both of them every Monday night. I'll trade off here for a second. Matter of fact, I used to wake up at 5 in the morning to watch the last 2 hours of Nitro because everyone would spoil it for me the next day. I'd get to school and be like, "You watch Nitro?" I go, "Just the first hour I recorded it because I watched Raw." And then they'd be like, "Oh, Steve won the world title." I go, "What? I just got recorded. What? Did you not think I wasn't going to watch that again?" So I would go to bed after Raw and I'd get up at 5 in the morning just to watch. So my main goal going to this show in Sacramento was to have Who Betta the Canyon signed because I was a big fan of his, but he was always in WCW. Besides here, the Lions angle just happened. Somebody threw something in the ring and he went to one corner and Tommy Jr. went to another corner. And I was 6th row, so I stood up on my chair. I had my Who Betta the Canyon signed. He looked right at me, and that was it. That was a goal accomplished. I was like, I knew he saw it. He didn't react to it, but that was good enough for me. As we were leaving, I looked back down, and I think I saw it looked like what to be Kanyon coming out as I walked the stairs. Then I double take and I see him coming out. I go, "Oh shit!" So I run back down the stairs. Be like, man, woman, child, didn't matter. I literally ran into the stage room. I kind of fell over, and he kind of caught it. He said, "Whoa, kid, take it easy." He goes, "Hey, here you go." He gives me the Who Betta the Canyon shirt. So I'm ecstatic. We go out to where the cars are parked and everyone's cheering for everyone, trying to get everyone to come over, take a picture, sign something, whatever. I'm like, tunnel vision. It's like Saving Private Ryan. See that movie? Everything's quiet. Everything's just there. Everybody's talking to me. I don't hear anything until right when Kane walks up the door and everything slams into full motion. I hear everything. He comes out. I start waving the sign. He comes over. Thanks for having the sign. Signs the sign. Signs the shirt for me. It was a great night. And I wanted to be a wrestler since I was 10 years old. And then that night made me want to be a wrestler that much more because I wanted to make that night, fans' night, that as memorable as Kane just made that night for me. I was 16, 17, and here I am, 20 years later, still ecstatic about it. And it was phenomenal. It just really is surreal. I left this story on his website, and his webmaster, this guy named Jerry, I forwarded to him, and one day randomly, I get an email from Kanyon in my email. It's like, "Hey, really appreciate the sign. See a lot of Kanyon signs. Really appreciate it. I wanted to have that shirt, but I figured, maybe this kid would appreciate the shirt more than I would." So I came back out and gave it to whatever. And he goes, "Hey, thanks for being a fan." And I'm like, "What?" And he goes, "Feel free to write back." So of course I write him probably 20 times a day too. Blowing him up. But and I started talking to him a little bit more when he had his knee injury because he was at home. And then I just happened to be and I lived in Chico, California, pretty far. It's probably 7.5 hours from Bakersfield. And Bakersfield is where he did the Boy George gimmick, where he came out singing The Undertaker. And I remember when it came out first, I was like, "What is this?" And then I was like, "Oh, is that Kanyon?" And I popped huge for that before I got the ass whooped.
Jesus.
And then I left the show early to be the first one out there. And I remember he drove out, he double took my sign, to get the sign, and he pulled over, and I ran up to him. And he was like, "Oh, hey, are you Brian?" And I was like, "Oh, he knows who I am." And that's where our friendship actually kind of started, rather than me just being a fanboy. And so on, I can go on forever with these little things, but let's get more to it. So you know how much I want to be a wrestler. And as for, I think, everyone around my age group, I think we all back there wrestled. And I remember we used to have, it was called MWF. I lived in these townhouses called Manzanita Apartments. So it was MWF, it's Manzanita Wrestling Federation. And then as it progressed into an actual federation, I wanted to keep the same initials, so it was MWF, but it stood for Main Event Wrestling Federation. And when I talked to him about it before, he'd be like, "Yeah, how much I wanted to work him." He's like, "Well, if it ever happens, you guys are in a ring, if you guys have a real ring and this and that, whatever, maybe we'll make it happen. So as we started, myself and a few of the others started training, and then we trained extra with all of our guys. And I got my own ring, I have my set up, and I was like, save up money, and then we got a business license with insurance, and then we started renting venues and so on and so forth. And I'm kind of like playing for like, hey, I got a legit thing going on now, just in case. You said you make it happen, and then that's, as I said in the documentary, he called me up one day while I was at work, and he's like, hey, you have a show, July 14th, and I'm like, no, why? And he goes, oh, because I've won the day before, and I was thinking if you guys ran a show, I could come up. And I go, what? Well, hell yeah, we're going to book a show now. So, and he did that. He did it absolutely free too. He didn't charge me.
That's awesome.
That's amazing.
He didn't have to. And he very easily would have paid him. But he didn't want to. He wanted to do that for me. And then we actually had a rematch several months later during the after Hurricane Katrina, and we made it a Red Cross Hurricane Katrina benefits show. And he called me up and he's like, I'm watching the match, and it was great. And at the end, it was kind of a legit fast count with the referee counts on it, because it was so hot in there, and the canvas we had at the time was kind of like it wasn't a tarp, but it was like a tarp-esque material. It was more of a plastic material than like a cloth canvas. So it was so hot, so sweaty. He was legit, as I rolled him up, he was sliding towards the ropes. So the referee kind of like shoot fast counted him, because he noticed if he didn't, it was going to be a rope break and the finish would go to hell. So he's like, he came up with this great gimmick, and he's like, I can come in, I can cut this promo, and say I got screwed over, and I can bring in my own ref, and we can have a heel ref, and we do that. It was cool. The first match I enjoyed way more, and just because it's the first one, and it's so special to me, as I said on the show as well. It's one of the great moments of not only my career, but in my life. But the second one has a cool little story to it. He was great. He came in for free on that one too. Real good dude. And he had mentioned that he might be moving back. So I went to Florida a couple times. Oh, that's not something. Well, I went out to Florida with him. That's where I trained with him a couple times as well.
Yeah.
And when we got to work with him, and then I'd have him critique all my matches. I'd send him matches, and he would, I'll do this instead, do that instead. Oh, WWE looks for this, or my match. So I didn't fully train with him, but I gave him the most credit because he helped me out. I moved up to Atlanta when he moved there, and he got me into Deep South uncontracted when it was developmental territory.
Yeah.
And myself and Johnny Curtis, which is Fandango, were the only two that were there uncontracted, and we were there for every practice, every TV, every house show. So we're basically full-time part of the roster, but we weren't signed. Unfortunately, I moved to Marietta one day while I was out there, and I missed the road, or there's bad traffic from an accident or whatever it was going to be, and I was just going to be so late getting there. I didn't want to show up because it was like too late. I was like, great, I'm going to get in trouble for showing up so late. Whereas if I'm just not there because something happened, it would almost be better. So I remember I turned around, I'm just like, F it, I guess I'm not going to make it today. But I didn't go, and that day, Johnny Ace came down, and I remember that's when Fandango got first signed, the developmental contract, because he was there. And everyone's like, what were you guys your case? I'm like, oh, you're kidding. So I missed out on that. But it did help leading me to get signed and being part of Florida Championship Wrestling a couple years later. So, again, that's why I give Kane so much credit, not because he was such an inspiration of mine, but I didn't get to work him. I consider that my first pro wrestling match, the match that we had that they showed. I did train with him a little bit, and he did help me out a lot, but then he opened up many doors and pathways for me to lead me down the avenue that I went. So,
yeah, dude, and you have this great connection of being a modern day superstar. I've always said you got like this modern day Scott Steiner vibe, just more athletic and fucking. You could do all this crazy shit, but you're a big ass dude, man. I really. Dude, I fucking love the connection that you have to like that previous generation of one of the best. You know what I'm saying? It's like you have ties. Like that's why I think like shit with AEW is so cool now. And you hear about them doing the Owen Hart thing and paying tribute and all that. Like it's just great to have good ties to like good, people in the business. And you have that with like Kanyon, dude, they call him the Innovator of Offense for a fucking reason that you weren't seeing that shit back in the day. We're early
Still
mid
don't know
'90s
what it
watching
is.
this stuff. It's insane.
Yeah, he was so ahead of his time. Talk about him being more accepted for sexuality and also with mental health. That's another big thing too. I think his repertoire would have been more appreciated nowadays than back then as well.
Oh yeah, for sure.
He was so good, and like even when my old school backyard wrestling days, I would try to do a lot of his moves because I was such a big fan of his. And I remember when Edge first debuted on WWE. I don't know if anybody remembers this, but like a lot of his moves were just stolen Kanyon moves. And I was like, what this guy was this knockoff Kanyon? I remember there's even like I think there's a GIF or a picture too of like Kanyon holding up some fan sign and it says Edge steals moves.
I remember some shit like that. Yeah.
So good. But like, yeah, so I was really used to a lot of his moves, and a very common thing I hear a lot too is everyone talks about how cool his character was in WWE Revenge.
Yeah, Mortis, dude.
Yeah, so good. But yeah, so I was already a big fan of his, and I wanted to do all his moves. And because everyone wants that match of the night, and whether you do or don't, or he did or didn't, he would always do something new or innovative, cool that always popped me as a youngster and would stick out to me, be something I would remember from that episode of Max Lord Thunder. And I was like, look, if I can't have match of the night, I at least want to have that. I want to have some moment where like it's something memorable. And I feel like almost every match, somebody, whether it be a fan, a person in the back, an agent, somebody, whether it be a small show, big show, whatever, that would mention, like, oh, hey, man, was a one move, or about what sequence, or that one spot, or I think you could do that, or whatever the case may be. So I feel like that's kind of a feather in the cap, and obviously I couldn't be the innovator of offense. That's Kanyon, and I would never steal that if I take that from him. But I remember my own spin on it for a while I was the multi-move Paragon. That was my
That's awesome.
Dude, like after he passed and shit, like what was that like? I mean, for you, personally, honestly, it sucks. I the other day, I just mourned a loss of a guy I got tattooed on my arm, that's been gone now 16 years. But just like speaking personally, like Brian Cage, where were you at mentally at that moment when you found out?
So I was basically I was up early. I was cooking eggs, getting ready to go to the gym afterwards, and my phone starts blowing up. And it goes off once, it goes off twice, it goes up again. I'm like, who's blowing me up at like 7:30 in the morning? And it goes off a couple more times, and I grab my phone, and you look at it, I can see like my text messages, and you just see the first few words, but if you don't open them. And I just said, I hear like, oh, I'm sorry about, or I just heard about CHR, or I'm so sorry to hear about this, or like, oh, are you okay? I keep seeing all these messages like that, and I'm like, and right then and there, I already knew what happened. And I was numb, and I didn't know what to think or do or say. And I just sat there forever quiet. And my girlfriend at the time asked me, he's like, oh, what's wrong? Is everything okay? And I just sat there and frozen. And I go, I think Kanyon just killed himself. And she's like, what? And then I didn't want to open the messages because I felt like that confirmed it.
Yeah.
And even though I felt inside that's what it was, I just sat there forever until I finally opened it. I didn't break down then. I didn't know how to react now because the fact that he was gone, and I didn't know how to really grasp that. But it also, truth be told, he's the first person in my life that's been close to me that had ever passed at that time. So not only like the aspect of him being gone, but like I hadn't dealt with death from anyone.
Super close
to me. Yeah. So I was like,
that's a harsh fucking blow, man.
And I remember after I sort of kind of fully grasped it, I remember sitting in the bathroom thinking about it, and so like I started crying about it a little bit more. And I was like, "Well, this is real. This is really happening." And because I didn't see him or talk to him every day at that point, I was back in California, so it doesn't seem like he's gone. But I'm like, knowing the fact that he is. And I remember that night I had a match, and I taped my wrist, and I had had the RIP Kanyon stuff on there, and I kept doing that, and that's when I switched to gauntlets, and I just had his logo from his tights on there. To point out before, most of my gauntlets have his logo on them still, and I did that instead of just writing RIP for Kanyon. But yeah, it was a little rough, and then as a sad bonus, the referee, who's a really good friend of mine, who also high school stuff too, that refed in that match, died also shortly after that.
Damn.
No, like, yeah. So it's as meaningful, as important and impactful as that match was that night. It's crazy when I watched and I realized, like, out of the 3 people in the ring, I'm the only one still alive. You know, it's pretty shocking.
Yeah, that sucks. And that's with a lot of wrestling. Not to fucking play the morbid card, but you know, like when you go back and watch old wrestling, all of a sudden it just hits you. It's like the golden era in like the 80s and shit, even the 90s, man. It's like, man, most of these people are gone now. Like down to the announcers, you know, like you said, the referees. It's like, geez, man, it's
rough.
It's such a tragic business, but you know,
it's rough, but yeah. So I think it might have been a couple of years after he passed before I started using the Who Betta stuff, and again, that was just to pay homage to him. And it's funny when I get all the Twitter warriors to be like, "Oh, Who Betta Kanyon, really trying to steal his stuff." I'm like, obviously, you guys don't know anything about anything, but and I got tired of always trying to like explain it, but like, whatever. People will the people that need to know or that do matter do know. So I was like, it's fine.
The Who Betta thing is amazing. When I first heard you using it, I popped hard because I was like, oh my God, that's awesome, because I was a huge Kanyon fan. So when you started doing it, I was immediately like, that's a great shout out to Chris Kanyon right there. And I just love it.
I remember the first time, and Luke Hawks and I are really good friends. We became friends through Kanyon. I remember the first time she was at Lucha Underground just hanging out, and he saw me doing it there. He loved it. He came to me afterwards, and he's like, I love the fact that you do that. That's so cool. So, and like, yeah, I was already a big fan of his, you know, moveset. I wanted to do a lot of his moveset on top of my own unique moveset. But then every time I would go to a match now and I get to do something from Kanyon, then it's always like a little extra special because it's getting to do something cool that he would do. But it's, you know, obviously another nod of respect and just kind of keeping his name alive. And that's why also, which we could talk about on the show either, that I was the only person that ever did the Mortis gimmick. When he retired officially, he gave me the Mortis outfit and told me, or asked if I wouldn't mind doing it. I'm like, are you kidding me? Absolutely, I would. So he's like, that way, you know, I could be retired, but a little bit of my namesake could still be around. And I figured, you know my moveset so well that I would trust you in doing it. I remember the first match I did this Mortis, I sent him a copy of it on DVD, and he replied to me, one of the coolest compliments I got. It was all caps. Did absolutely phenomenal job as Mortis. Please keep doing it. So, and I remember, and I had that. I still have that phone somewhere in my garage. I remember I wanted to keep it because I wanted to keep that message saved on that phone. And I just actually talked to his brother Ken a couple days ago for quite a while, which is the first time I've ever talked to him. I've met his parents and I've heard about his brother, but we talked for a good while, and it was nice. And he actually, I gave the Morris outfit back to Kanyon when I was in developmental. He asked for it back. He was like, "Oh, would you mind if I used it?" I'm like, "Dude, I know you gave it to me, but it's still yours. Absolutely, go ahead."
Yeah.
And a week before he had passed, I talked to him on the phone for quite a while, and the plan was to have a 6-man tag with him and Raven and myself as Mortis, which is we got up in New York, which would have been cool because Mortis and Kanyon would have been the same match. But unfortunately, obviously, it never came to fruition because he passed, you know, like a week later. Luke and I were talking about doing a memorial show type thing, and I tried to get the outfit back from his family, and they weren't keen on it at first. But after just talking to his brother recently, he actually said that he believes one of his cousins has it, and he said that he would get in touch with them and ship it to me so that I could. Whether you use it or not, it's up to you. But I figured like it would probably be more meaningful for you to have than for them. So that was pretty rad,
dude. And that'd be great. Like AEW coming up on Halloween, October. Brian Cage comes back as Mortis, dude. I'm popping so hard right now, brother.
I would absolutely love to do something with it. So we'll see what happens.
Hell yeah,
that's great,
dude. So what's it like for like the locker room? I mean, especially now, like since this episode has dropped, you get guys that were like Kanyon fans that maybe didn't know the connection you had before with him. They're like coming up to you, like, "What's going on? How was that?"
I think most already knew because I've talked about Kanyon a few different times, and especially Mortis as well, especially with Andy the Butcher. He was a huge Kanyon and Mortis fan, and there's a couple other guys in the production and the props department and stuff that were big Kanyon fans, big W7 fans. So People have known that I, was cool with him, and obviously the Who Betta stuff. So we've had the Kanyon conversations plenty of times on post-show hangouts and whatnot. So I don't think there's really anybody that didn't know that we had that connection.
Has Tony ever talked to you about him?
Oh, for sure. And that was before I was ever getting to say anything. He always popped for the Who Betta stuff because he's such a WCW fan as well. So and he loved Kanyon's work, and so he likes the fact that I did the Who Betta.
Dude, what do you think would be like his biggest impact on the business or sport of professional wrestling?
I mean, obviously in general terms, just as Innovator of Offense, because I think it really affected a lot of people's mindset on wrestling. Like you on the show, like the Young Bucks and myself and such. And obviously he came up with so many moves. I'm a big skateboarder as well. I don't skateboard that much anymore.
I seen you doing some shit like BTE, man. I was like, Brian Cage's gonna break that fucking board, man.
I was on my skateboard in the garage. I was showing my friends. Unfortunately, there's a couple of times I skated and I was landing everything then, and Helico was losing his mind. And they didn't talk about that either. I grip taped everyone's board too. They used to work the board. I remember actually, and Helico even said, because Darby grip taped, I think Nemeth's board, but I grip taped and Helico's board and one of the Young Bucks board and my board. And Helico was like, he goes, Darby did the board. He did the board as good as you. He's like, you're the best grip tape job I've ever seen. I'm like, and it was just amazing, that the body guy Brian Cage was over here doing the best grip tape job. But I bring that up because something like Rodney Mullen, who's amazing, and he invented so many skateboard tricks. So I almost kind of put that in the same token with Kanyon because he's invented so many moves, and he was on that.
Yeah, dude.
He was doing the buckshot there way before
Dude,
yep.
I love that little clip they did on Dark Side, bro.
I'm so stoked.
Yeah, dude, I marked out. I caught a kiss on that,
I mean, the Fishman suplex neckbreaker to a bridge was a lot.
Oh my
god! Obviously, the flatliner, my the suplex, which is where I got that from him. Now, I feel like I made that one my own almost a little bit, but that's when anybody tries to say, I treated that to Cesaro suplex or this person suplex. I go, no. First of all, I was like, no, you got that from me. And even then, anybody suplex, it's Kanyon suplex. And I was like, because even Elgin was doing it too for a while too. I was like, no, but Elgin and Cesaro both got it from me from PWG because they never did it before. I did PWG, and also they started doing it outside of PWG. But come on. But,
come on.
But yeah, no, he did so many cool moves, so many cool aspects, and I don't think people realize how influential he was with somebody. He went out and he picked 10 cruiserweights and he got them all jobs at WCW. He was the one, handpicked by Eric Bischoff, to train every celebrity that came through, whether it was
dude, he did all the stunt work for Ready to Rumble.
He did all the stunt work for Ready to Rumble. He's the one that came up with the Triple Cage idea for the movie.
He took that bump too. That fucking damn that bump.
That bump even happened too. Originally was he was working. I believe he was working Mike Awesome that night in the pay-per-view, and they wanted him to get powerbombed on the outside, but yet he was still going to win the match, underhandedly. He goes, but he was supposed to be injured. They should go do that injury angle. And he goes, what? He literally already told me the story. He goes, I was like, we can't do that. That makes me look like a pussy. He goes, why would I take this move, beat the guy, but then all of a sudden I'm crippled for months? He goes, that's my thing. So it's like, what do you want to do then? He goes, it was like this. What if we come out during the main event and I get thrown off the cage? And then we can do one of the cool concert style ramps to go all the way to the ring. And we can make a spot after we can go through the ramp on the stage. So that was all his ideas as well. Very, very creative man. Between his ideas, he'd always tell me different stories and get angles that he wanted to do and stuff. And I just felt he had a really good mind for wrestling. And it was unfortunate that he never really got pushed and used his full potential. But it's ironic because in the same token, going back to it, you have somebody like Bischoff and trusting him to sign all these cruiserweights, to train all the celebrities, to do this and that, be part of the movie. So obviously he knew his ability, just like John Cena and Ric Flair know his ability, by the way. But
I'm glad you brought that up. I want to segue. We'll come right back. I want to segue into that because that pissed me off. And I remember hearing it back in the day and it pissed me off. I'm like, who the fuck are these guys? Especially back in the day, okay, I'm a guy now that I guess as a fan or a media person, whatever, can, I guess, respect the work ethic of a John Cena. The fact that we've said it on the show many a times with previous guests that, hey, most of your good heroes like Hulk Hogan and stuff really only had like 4-year runs, like to where they were like peaking. John Cena control shit for a decade, but still, dude, I hated every second of it. And for him to talk about a guy who, especially at that fucking time, dude, in ring, far superior. I don't care about all the other bullshit. And he's going to talk shit. I remember that pissed me off back in the day. And when Flair said it too, I was just like, you know what, Flair, you just need a paycheck because you got divorced for the 4th or 5th fucking time.
Here's what it was too. And I remember hearing about it, it pissed me off. And it's funny, I forgot about it. And then I remember somebody tagged me on it on Twitter. Well before we did the Dark Side of the Ring episode, but really, I remembered it then. I remember I got even more hot now about it. The more pissed was not only because obviously Cena knows how good Kanyon is. Obviously Cena and everybody else knows how much better Kanyon is in the ring than Cena. Yes, and we'll give Cena his due. Obviously, he's a superstar for a reason, and he's been very consistent in his work. Even though he's not the best, he always does have good matches. He's very consistent on his body. He's great with make wish balance. There's plenty of good things to say about Cena. I'm saying he's an awful person. But also, that was just a really, as I said, the Dark Side of the Ring, a really dirtbag move. And they used Cena because obviously he was the biggest star, and he still wasn't as big of a star, then as he is now. But he's one of the bigger stars. So like, hey, let's have Cena go on there, trample on what Kanyon said, because no matter how much validity there is to what Kanyon's saying, John Cena is going to eradicate it. Because Kanyon's here in the general population, listen to how concerned John Cena's here. So whatever he says, he's just going to shut the door on anything Kanyon brings up, whether there's any truth behind it or not. But a big thing is Kanyon worked significantly with Cena and OVW. Significantly. So much so, he showed me his royalty checks that he got on one of the John Cena DVDs that had plenty of Kanyon matches with them. And we were pretty significant. I'm pretty sure Cena even talks about him there, but Kanyon told him when he was going through OVW a lot before he was out the door, and now he's working with Cena quite a bit. So it just goes to show you too again how much Cena obviously knew how talented Chris was. So to go out there and he could say he could try to bring character stuff or whatever, but to basically say that he sucked and he wasn't any good was just so harsh and just so shitty. And then Ric Flair is one of Kanyon's favorites.
That was bone crushing. Yeah.
So I feel like that was just a low blow just to kind of shit on Kanyon to have Ric Flair do it. And they both knew what the deal was, but they both just were playing the corporate role. And I get that, but still, it was just like unnecessary and unfortunate.
I get that, but I don't. At the same time, I mean, what are you going to do? We're in their boots. We do the same thing, I guess. I would hate to think that I would, but I probably would. You know what I mean? That's fucking horrible. Because in reality,
heartbreaking.
I don't think I would. I understand like a lot of people let WB do all the shots. Or he's always afraid for the jobs and walking with their knives. I mean, this is John Cena and Ric Flair. I don't think either one of them are going to get fired if they didn't do that. But obviously I could see somebody in a lower total pool being scared too. But like even now, being mad, like I still before we even buried Cena about anything, I still put him over first. You know what I mean? So I just hate it because it's a lie, and they know it's a lie. If it was their real opinion for whatever reason, even though it would be wrong, I guess everyone's can have their opinion there, and I was going to like me, and I was going to like everyone, so they could have that opinion. But the fact that he knows that opinion was wrong is what really bothers me because it's not how they really feel.
Yeah. Well, hey, it's coming, for some guys that fucking look what they did to the Warrior, and then we'll try to correct it down the road.
Too, especially after the airplane, the plane ride from hell, and all the heat Ric Flair got from that. Like, more from the Kanyon episode too. It was like back-to-back weeks for him.
Oh, yeah, that plane ride episode though, man. God damn, I mean, it's just I don't even know what to say about it. But I feel for Tommy, dude. I feel for Tommy. I don't feel like that dude did anything wrong, and you don't have to say anything about it. But I'm just like, damn.
I don't know. That's just how right?
How it is.
Whatever. It's just the cancel culture here. Like, it just sucks. And like, and I get it from all angles too. But what really sucks for Tommy is Tommy wasn't trying to say anything derogatory, obviously, negative or spiteful at all. and obviously bit him in the ass, and obviously, yeah, he probably should have said some of the stuff he said, obviously, but it made Melissa worried a little bit because she was like, "Oh my gosh, are you on next week's episode? Like, what did you say, or what they going to edit?" Like, they're not out there trying to edit people's words to bury anybody. I'm like, I know that happened, but I don't think that was even their intentions for that episode either.
Right.
To do anything for Tommy Dreamer, but it just what happened, unfortunately.
Yeah. It's a court of public opinion, and they found whatever he said to be ghastly and dastardly. But hey, man, it's out there. It sucks that shit happens because I've met Tommy a few times. He's been nothing but nice. He's been a great guy. Locker room leader from a lot of people, from what I've heard. So, hey, it is what it is.
Probably been great. He's always been one of the guys too that usually has a lot of good things said about him. A la Kanyon as well. So it's unfortunate. Yeah, because obviously everyone's heard about the Plane Ride from Hell in different aspects, and I didn't know everything on there. Obviously, yeah, Ric Flair did there. It was pretty inexcusable. However much, he was trying to be, obviously, it's.
Yeah, that's fucked up. Yeah, I mean, you can't be doing that shit. Yeah.
I don't think anybody else was thinking it was too funny. So, but obviously, that whole episode. The whole plane ride, I was there, but everyone's story is like, yeah, that just sounded like a disastrous debacle the whole time.
It was like a story I heard about. We've all heard about in the wrestling community for 20 fucking years now. It's like, then when it really came out as a thing, it's like, god damn it, I don't want to hear that. It's fucking horrible.
My favorite line from the episode was JR at the beginning, where he's like, if I never talked about the plane ride from hell again, I'd be so truly happy.
Let me serve you up a little bit, Brian. If I never have to talk about the plane ride from hell again, I'll be a happy fucking man.
So, man. Anyways, it's not Plane Ride from Hell episode. This is the Chris Kanyon episode.
Yep,
that's right.
I know we were talking about an impact that Chris Kanyon had, and he did have a huge impact. And him doing the stunts for the movies and stuff, and then getting the Lucha guy signed, and you look back and see how much of that impact he had, and for the Cena and Flair to say that, it is kind of bummed me out a lot. What other huge impacts do you have that of, not just in the ring but in the locker room and stuff? I mean, they trusted him, even in the episode he came to WWE, and Vince was high on him, his work ethic and everything, and they gave him 2 championships right there.
He actually, so I remember he told me this too, that when the Alliance was first starting, the first angle, they actually it was kind of bombing. All the WWE guys were kind of bombing. I remember too, if you remember, the Buff Bagwell incident when he got thrown out the door.
Booker.
Yeah, and then that was it for him. A lot of the guys were kind of dropping the ball, and a lot of them were getting worried for the jobs. We're thinking this angle was going to come crashing down because nobody was delivering. I think it was the Sunday Night Heat episode. I think it was Sean O'Hare, Mark Jindrak versus Chris Kanyon.
Oh yeah, another man. I love those guys, man. Jindrak and O'Hare.
I remember the match was really good, and King just freaking killed it. And he's the one put the match together, and it was just awesome. And I remember everyone in the back clapping and thanking Kanyon, shaking his hand because they said, "You just saved for jobs," because that was something. And then that's what started his push to get that double title win too.
Do you know how deep? Because they kind of somewhat touched on it. I mean, he was trained by Moolah. What was his obviously Ric Flair, we know he was a big fan of. What was some of that of Kanyon's I guess heroes and inspirado, if you will, for the fucking wrestling business, man?
You know what? As far as your favorites and people you looked up to and stuff, I don't know a whole lot more other than Ric Flair. Maybe I should too. I mean, obviously I've read his book as well, and I'm sure Paul talks about it as much. But I've always just known Ric Flair was always the one, and which too he kind of I think enjoyed going back and forth with Ric Flair a little bit, as a fan.
I'm sure, dude.
As somebody pointed out online too, when he's kind of throwing Kane under the bus on Howard Stern, you can tell he's trying to play it cool, but it's just his body language looks so just so sad. Just look you have a person you've shared a lot with and you've worked with, but you still idolize and look up to. So he's like me, same thing. If I'm over here talking about this, that, whatever about AEW, and the Kanyon calls up on the phone as we're talking, and he fucking shits all over me. Like, I mean,
It'd be heartbroken, man.
I'm going to respond to that. I'm like, oh, well, fuck. All right, I guess I won't be doing that anymore. Like, yeah, I started a loss. Like, all right, what do I do now? Shit.
Yeah.
Right.
They kind of like ruined his because he wasn't doing much more Stern shit after that, right?
No, yeah, that kind of slow to hit the pump the brakes on it for sure. Maybe people would want to like, I don't know all these different depression moments. I mean, I was there in person for a few of them when it always happened. Where like, he like when I first moved out to Atlanta, I was going deep south too. That was more like his manic moment for a second before he came crashing down. And he was like, "Yeah, we'll do this. We'll train. We'll do this. We do this one work. We'll do these shows. We'll train. We'll do that. Like all this stuff." I'm like all jazzed, psyched, and everything. And then I get there, and I remember like the first day, like I move in, and like mind you too, I'm young. I just gave him a really good job. My son is 6 months old. I left him and his mom behind with her permission. I still paid for everything that I could there. But I'm over here chasing the stream, which I wanted my entire life. And I get there, and all of a sudden, he's not normal Kanyon. And again, I don't know it at the time, and I can't digest it or understand it. But he's just being kind of like overly lackadaisical. And I'm like, yeah, that's cool. All right, we can just lay around and watch TV or movies, whatever. But I'm like, yo, man, like, I came out here to hustle and get things done. I just flew across the country and gave up everything back home to chase the stream that you were so willing to help me do, but like now you're kind of like just didn't want to do anything almost, and not to make it sound bad on him at all, but that's because he went from this manic moment of like let's do this to come crashing down to where
Peaks and valleys, brother.
Yep. So and I was around for a couple of those moments. Then then I began to kind of see what was going on, and obviously now looking back, hindsight's 2020. But I mean, it still wasn't for him. A lot of things wouldn't have gotten to happen for me. But yeah, it was rough, man. And I feel for him. And he'd always said how wrestling had nothing to do with it. And I don't know if that's something I fully believed. I obviously still was a very depressed person, and obviously had all the issues too, trying to keep his sexual identity secret. So I'm sure too would probably aid at him that he was able to excel as well as he should have, and also now be more openly about everything. He probably wishes he could have redone it now like that once he saw how accepted it was and not a big deal. So I found it hard to believe that being let go and kind of falling out of wrestling did definitely enhance his depression as well, because I feel like too, even with a lot of the the mass suicides and stuff like that happened, and the ODs and everything else in wrestling, I feel like it's because they lose that because like that to them that was the moment. They've had suicide tendencies or depression. You go out there, you're performing in front of 20,000 fans, you get that high, you're doing something you love more than anything else, and then when that's gone, what are you left with? And I feel like people, they start going and they're chasing other highs to try to recreate the high, which they can't find. And unfortunately, it either leads them to their doom where they just give up in life, or they chase that high so much, that's when something, like an overdose or whatever happens. And that, obviously that's just a theory that I just thought of, that being in that position and seeing how great it can feel, how, sad it could be when it's gone, I can totally understand how that can happen.
Yeah, man. And dude, him wanting to give back to the business as much as it seemed like he wanted to with, the young talent and everything, just having an eye. It's like, it's so, think of him nowadays, like in a role with Kanyon was backstage at AEW producing some of this shit.
It would be amazing. He'd be so good. And he'd still be able to go too. Like, it would be great.
Yeah.
And that's what I said. Like, I just wish, like, for every facet of his life, like, if it would have happened, 10 years sooner or whatever, I feel like he'd still be here and everything would be different.
Do you ever train with him? You ever lift with him or anything?
We did lift twice. I remember when he was in really good shape, and he was the trainer with this guy named Lord Humongous, which was the personal trainer. I remember I lived with the one I went to stay with for a couple weeks in Clearwater Beach after our first match, and it was rad. And I remember he had me too, being a broke kid, really like saving up for all the different supplements are expensive as hell, man. And I remember like, okay, I got this supplement, I got this supplement, whatever. And like I try to, I'd be so stingy with it, trying to make it last as long as possible. And then I roll up in his kitchen, and he's got like every single flavor of Isopure known to man. So I'm like, what? Look at this! What is this? This is like the Toys R Us super toy run, but a protein powder. Like this is amazing. It's so good. And then whenever we watch pay-per-views, whether the UFC or WWE over at Hooters, and they'd have a sandwich every hour. So like every hour we'd order chicken or grouper sandwich and just keep eating it every hour, which is kind of fun.
Speaking of Brian, I have to ask you real quick because I noticed at the last Warrior Wrestling, I'm going to trail off for 1 second, but I got to know because so there's this we'll call him the young boy. I forget the gentleman's name, so forgive me, sir. He's at Warrior Wrestling. He's a young up and coming wrestler, but he tried to eat the same burrito as you from Chipotle. That it's like what is the Brian Cage burrito? Because brother, it looked delicious. It took this motherfucker 2 hours to eat it. I was like, I'll get that in 25 minutes.
I actually don't even like Chipotle, but I feel like too that's like the like they're gonna make an indie wrestling action figure. You have to come with a Subway sandwich and a Chipotle bag because that's like the go-to indie wrestler diet for sure. So he stopped at Chipotle and he's like, "Oh, you want anything? No, I'm cool." And he goes, "Well, will you do me a favor?" And I go, "What?" He goes, "Can you order my burrito for me?" I go, "Wait, what?" He goes, "Like, I want to have, if Brian Cage was going to burrito a Chipotle, what would you get?" And like, I want that burrito. So I was like, okay. So I went in there and I got extra rice, no beans.
Eat of everything.
I got the salsa, I got the cheese, I got guacamole, and then I got like triple steak. And that was, and I was like,
nice.
I was like, you want it so it can't fold. And the shit couldn't fold. There it is. That's perfect. So there's all the proteins and healthy fats and just the carbs that matter. So.
Hell yeah.
That sounds amazing. I might order that.
He took me a picture like the following weekend and of the receipt, and he bought another one.
Oh, well, at least it wasn't a picture of his stool after that giant fucking thing. Jesus Christ. Yeah. So, Brian, as we wind down here, man, in closing, is there any last, comments or memories you have on the man himself, Chris Kanyon? And after that, let everybody know where they can find you and merch at. I know Pro Wrestling Tees has some official Chris Kanyon merch out right now. First merch in God knows how motherfucking long, but you guys should pick all those shirts up because the designs are fucking amazing. But yeah, here's your time, brother, to let everybody know where to find you and any kind of final thoughts.
Yeah, you can follow me on Mr. GMSI _ BCage on Twitter. It's a ridiculous name. I thought it was cool.
Whoa, this is cool.
But now I'm verified, so if I change it, I'll lose the Bluetooth.
Oh, well, you talking shit, Brian? I love you, brother. I verified, motherfucker.
Brian Cage on Instagram, ProWrestlingTees.com / Brian Cage. But don't even worry about my Pro Wrestling Tees. As he just said, support Chris Kanyon, especially because that's for a limited time. And the shirts are awesome. The micro brawl is amazing. I have two shirts
those Mortis micro brawlers, dude. Oh,
I got two shirts on micro brawl filming myself, and all the proceeds not only go to a charity, and then the rest of the proceeds are actually going to go to this celebration of Kanyon that his brother's putting together for early next year.
That's fucking cool.
Amazing.
I actually would love. I know people keep on tagging Tony into doing like a Kanyon Cup tournament. Worst case scenario, because it happened there, right? I would love to be able to get together with Luke and some of the other guys who put together a little Kanyon Cup, even if it's on the Indies. And I definitely would use the more.
Yeah, Luke's awesome too. I'd love to see you guys fucking tear it up. He's another fucking castle.
Luke is my dad. Let me show you this. I'm in my little toy room. I don't know if you
Sweet.
Yes. Feed me more.
This is the Canyon figure that I have signed by him.
Oh, that's awesome.
dude.
Yes.
The Marvel toys, they were still Toy Biz back then,
Yeah.
I think.
And then this is one that I had commissioned. EWO Customs, who made this for me.
Hell yeah.
And this is it's a half Canyon, half Mortis figure.
Awesome.
Damn.
Mattel version, yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and I've got plenty of Canyon stuff that's sentimental to me. But my first time getting to travel around New York, he took me there. We actually wanted to go watch him for CDP at this indie show, and then we got to hang out, me and my friend, the first time around New York since he was from there. So I got to see all the spots as a kid and all the touristy shit, and his house that he grew up in. I also got to tour San Francisco with him as well after an indie show that he did down there. Trying to think of some random stories. There's this one. This is a good one. So he did some. I don't know if it was I think it was some sort of house show thing where Kanyon was wrestling some news reporter, and I remember they interviewed him, and this was on TV, and they said, "All right, you're wrestling, Joe Schmo tonight, who was just trained by Randy Savage earlier. What do you think his chances are?" And he goes slim to none. He goes, what was the line that he said? He said, because I'm wrestling a has-been trained and never was. He's like, he's not better than Kanyon. Something along those lines. But he basically called Macho Man, has-been. Obviously, this guy was never was. And he probably went out and did whatever little hokey doke stuff for the house show crowd, and that was that. Anyways, Kanyon starts getting blown up. That Macho is furious. Macho's pissed. And he's like, what? He goes, DDP calls him, this person calls. Everybody's like, dude, you got to talk to Mach. Like, he's livid. And he said Macho Man and Scott Steiner were the two most intense, if you will, individuals in the locker room. I've always got along great with Scotty. We're both physical phenomenons, so we get along with.
Me and my brother, yeah.
So he starts like freaking out about it. He's like, dude, I don't know why Savage is like legit mad. He goes, was it because of the promo? It was just a wrestling promo. I didn't even say anything bad. So he works up this apology where he doesn't sound like he's being, too much of an ass kisser, but like, straightforward and whatever. Meet in the middle. He calls his friend and he tells him the situation. And he goes, can I read this apology to you? Something that sounds good, but it doesn't, where it kind of meets right down the middle. And he goes, okay. He goes through it. He goes, great. So he calls Macho Man, goes to his freaking voicemail. So he leaves the apology on his voicemail. He said he hangs up, his phone rings. He answers it. Brother, you're dead. And hangs up. And he goes, what's going on? So he's like freaking out, thinking like, oh my God, was Savage going to try to kill me? Like, they go to Nitro and he's in catering and he sees Savage.
Never knew.
Right? And so he goes over like, you go, Mach, we got heat. He goes, oh, no, we're cool, brother. We're cool now. And he goes, what? You're really hot? He goes, oh, I was going to kill you. And he goes, why? What happened? And he goes, I guess he had a multi-million-dollar sponsorship with Slim Jim who called him up and said, why would we pay you all this money if you're a has-been? So if somebody saw that little rinky-dink promo for this little spot, it was going to cut his multi-million-dollar freaking sponsorship with Slim Jim.
Oh,
I guess understand
you needed vindication.
Right? So yeah, it's a random little story, but yeah, there's so many good stories, so many good times with Kanyon. I'm a huge Army Darkness fan, and I remember.
Fuck yeah, brother.
Yes.
As we all are. You want to talk horror? We got another 5 hours to go.
Did you hear the talking ash going off when I came in here?
No, I didn't. Did you see the Return of the Living Dead hat?
Oh, that's the best. That's the best music too.
Yes,
Hell yeah,
it is.
dude. I own that on vinyl. OG.
I just watched that with my son not too long ago, but when I was moving this light around, every time the light would go on and off, it'd make Ash talk. Like, here, let me see if I can.
Let's check that shit
That's
out.
great.
Juice Cribs with Brian Cage. Check it out.
The lights start like is a different angle. Won't register right now. But yeah, I thought because he does the whole. Is the sideshow one too, or not sideshow, but Toy Biz, not Toy Biz, freaking McFarlane. Sorry, McFarlane's
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Uncle Todd's always got the best trinkets.
Yeah, he does.
Nevertheless, yeah. So I got him into Army Darkness. I remember I sent him a DVD. we went and saw like a drive-in theater stuff with him. I was watching a bunch of horror movies with him. Yeah, dude, just a good dude. I saw him help out so many guys. He's just such a selfless individual, as Luke and so many other guys were talking about, and just so willing to help out anyone and everyone. And unfortunately, too, being such a nice guy in the biz, he obviously, got a little taken advantage of, and also never got his proper dues, I don't think. But I definitely am stoked that I feel like this documentary on him from Dark Side of the Ring definitely shows a lot of people who didn't know, how good and talented and innovative and creative he was, and how good of a person he was. So,
yeah, most definitely. He's definitely a star that needed more light shine upon him. We've said it this whole episode. I can't say it enough. Great guy, fucking Who Betta? Who fucking Betta, Brian?
Nobody better. Not especially not Brian Cage. Somebody's asking like some of his favorite matches, and somebody talked about it too. But I loved his match with Chris Benoit, where he has a no chop match.
Oh,
and he powders out from the chop like the whole match, so he finally gets chopped. And I remember I was working Willie Mack all the time. This might have been back in like 2010, 11, 12-ish. And I remember that was when he was a little newer too, and Willie was so snug on everything, and his chops would just kill you. And that was one of my favorite opponents ever. But like I started getting like tired because working him all the time. Like, damn, give me a break on Willie Mack. So I didn't want to take any more chops. And I go, you know what? I was like, I thought about Canyon's match with Benoit. I go, we're gonna have a no chop match tonight. He goes, what? What you mean? I go, you're gonna try to chop me, and I'm gonna powder every single time to keep on cutting you off, and like go to the camera, go to the crowd. There's a no chop match this whole time. And I was like, and then finally, when you chop me, like it'll matter, and that would too. I think one. Dude, with that one chop he gave me, it legit split my chest open. One chop, and boom, split open with bleeding. But it got probably the biggest reaction of the whole match. Speaking of it, and that same match too that I have with Kanyon, and we went like 30 minutes in that match. I put him in the Texas Cloverleaf, and he powdered out, and he cuts this promo, and he's like, all right, I heard, this kid that happens to kiss my ass knows that I hurt my knee when I was working for Vincent K. McMahon. He's like, he's trying to put me in Texas Cloverleaf, to injure me or whatever. And he goes, I didn't come out here to get retired. I came out here for the money. He's like, if he tries to do that again, then I'm walking out of this town and never ever coming back. And the crowd gets TP'd. He goes, so this now is a no Texas Cloverleaf match. So he did that to kind of play off the no chop match from Chris Benoit. So
yeah, that's great.
So good.
Dude, you always do that shit, man. I always love that, like the little stipulation.
It's the best.
Right. I mean, like, yeah, I remember too. A lot of people don't give him credit for it too. Not only is his moves, so great, but his bumps and his selling were amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Off the
selling's the best part of the business, man. And what makes
he made
it go around.
He had every amazing move in the world, but he made everyone's move look amazing. Like I remember when Raven gave him even fall on the stage when he was Mortis too. I couldn't believe that. I was like, he's dead. He killed him. Like,
yeah.
It was so cool. And like even as something as simple as his punches. His punches were amazing. Just everything he did, man.
Yep.
Just so good. So good.
Fuck
I
yeah,
agree.
man.
Yep.
Brian, once again, thank you so much for coming on and talking about Kanyon tonight, brother.
Oh, I appreciate it, man. It was my pleasure doing it.
But hey, next time you come back on, we'll talk about some horror movies and shit, man. We'll chop it up.
Man.
It'll be a good time.
Little horror movies, little Marvel action, little this, little that.
There you go.
Oh yeah. You know I want to talk about the Age of Apocalypse because I love Wolverine with one hand, brother. Oh yeah.
Yeah, but that doesn't make sense why Cyclops should be able to shoot his hand off and he wouldn't grow it back. So
well, maybe they put
some.
What's the vibranium? Isn't that stronger than adamantium?
No, adamantium's stronger.
Adamantium's the strongest metal.
Yes.
Well, maybe they did some fucked up shit. It's fiction. Come on,
man. He clawed right through Captain America's shield, man.
Yeah,
come on.
right, yeah. Vibranium just absorbs the energy, and adamantium does do that.
Whatever, you guys proving me wrong. Hey, boils and ghouls, thank you for tuning in. That was Brian Cage. We just had a fucking killer time ripping up about Chris Kanyon, one of the greatest to ever do it, and lace up a pair of boots. If you're watching on YouTube right now, hit like and subscribe. Be sure to share with all your friends. We're on all social media. Pro wrestling tees were there too. But like Brian said, let's buy some fucking Chris Kanyon merch. Until next time, everybody, wet 'em up, wet 'em up, wet 'em up.
You gonna do sex to me? Did you like that video? If so, be sure to hit like and subscribe and check out more killer content from your boys at Juice Pro Wrestling. Whoa, yeah!